friends, welcome to another episode of Talk with Renee Dallow. It is me, your host, Renee Dallow, and I'm here today with the lovely and fabulous Brenda Cadman. Brenda, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You're in a frozen tundra right now.
It's a little less tundra than it has been, but they're saying there's the possibility of another foot of snow possibly coming just in time for Valentine's Day. So,
Wow.
pile that on top of what's already there. Why not?
Happy Valentine's Day, y'all. You're hearing this probably a month after Valentine's Day, but
Yes.
as I live in Los Angeles, as you all know, I always ask everyone what their weather is like because it's just so interesting to me because I don't have weather anymore. I'm in a short, like a thin sweater, and I'm cold today.
Oh, can you feel the sympathy?
Yeah, I feel the overwhelming sympathy.
And I'm actually getting a chance to, I have not been to LA as an adult, but Canva Create is actually being held there this year instead of Sydney. So end of May, I am probably going to make my way down there. So I'm excited to experience your non-weather.
I'm totally going to harass you and make you go to lunch with me. That's so fun that they're doing Canva Create. Okay, so that brings us to our topic today, y'all, which is the biggest mistakes you're making in Canva. I already know one of mine that you're probably going to yell at me for. Like, I already know you're going to be like, are you insane right now? But you are a Canva expert, pro. What's the verbiage?
The current going title is Canva-verified expert. It's kind of had for a few permutations over the past number of years, but that's the title. And there's just about 53 or 54 of us in the world right now. So it's not that many. I was one of the first 25 when they launched the program at the beginning of 2022. And it's growing and there will be more, but I'll always be one of the first 25. So
I love that. So many wedding pros, I think we sort of call ourselves like, oh, I'm a Canva expert, like because we use it every day. Mm-hmm. But you are legitimately a Canva expert, and that's why we had you come on. So, I mean, I think it's safe to say that I don't know. Okay, I'll put it this way: I don't know an online entrepreneur / wedding pro that doesn't use Canva. Is it that ubiquitous now?
Pretty much, to the point that I'm so accustomed to everybody knowing what it is that when I have conversations with folks in my neighborhood and they have never heard of Canva, I'm really caught off guard because now I have to suddenly explain something that I routinely don't have to. But you're right, most folks, if they're not already using it on a regular basis, they've at least heard of it, and chances are, as a business owner, they will be dabbling in it at some point to some level.
Yeah. I'm also really always impressed, honestly, of what Canva can accomplish and what it continues to iterate toward. And just as a basic example, like, every year at Wedding MBA, or I should say everywhere I speak, and I speak, I don't know, now upwards of like 20 times a year, all of my presentations are created on Canva. But it used to be that I would create my presentations on Canva, and then I'd go to a QR code generator website and I'd pay them, and then they generate a QR code and I would make it look pretty and try to match the hex colors, and then I would download it and put it. They have it built in there now.
Yep, and with multiple options too, different kinds of presentation options. It's what I have used for pretty much every single presentation I've done over the last couple of years, and I do a lot of them. I'd say it's rare that a week goes by that I'm not doing a presentation, and you have your notes right there. You can present in regular format or presenter view, or you can record it. They are constantly iterating, which is wonderful. It's a little less wonderful for those of us who realize, oh crap, I'm going to have to go update that portion of my course every time there's an update. But I appreciate that they're constantly trying to introduce new features and perhaps more importantly, try to refine the features that are already there to make them a little more user-friendly and a little more intuitive for those who maybe are struggling a bit to use them.
Yeah. I definitely want to dive into some of the newer Canva features, but I do want to get to these mistakes because I know we're all making them. So, okay, mistake number 1, you say, is not setting up your brand kit or not using it consistently. Tell us.
So now, the first thing I always mention in full transparency, this is one of those features that it's so central to using the platform effectively, in my humble opinion, but it is something that's only available on the paid version. So if you're on a free plan, if you've tried to access the brand kit, it's going to prompt you to upgrade. You're not going to be able to use it otherwise. There's little kinds of workarounds that you can do to some extent, but to get the full benefit of it, you really do need to be on the paid plan. So I want to be fully transparent about that up front. But I do think it is probably the number one reason that folks upgrade, at least those who are using Canva for business purposes, and it's the number one reason that I recommend upgrading. So if you haven't used it before, the brand is essentially, it's a hub that's going to contain all of the various brand assets that you need to create consistently on brand, graphics and marketing materials that look like your business. So your logos are in there, your color palette, your fonts that you use. They expanded it last March with Canva Create in March 2022 to allow more brand ingredients. So you've got your photos, you can put brand photos in there and graphics and icons. They've now added a space for describing your brand voice as well. So it's supposed to be an all-in-one kind of resource that you can easily access when you're designing, to be able to access all of those different kinds of materials. And the problem if you don't set that up is it's going to waste a lot of time. I am not here to encourage folks to go down the Canva rabbit hole. A lot of fun, but not a great use of your time. And I want to find all this. I want to find those efficiencies so that you can use it more effectively. So having all of that information right at your fingertips is going to save you a lot of time, but it's also going to make sure that everything you're putting out is instantly recognizable as belonging to your brand. Because if you are constantly putting things out with different colors, different fonts, different looks and feels, you're never going to have a cohesive look and feel to the marketing that you're putting out there. That makes it really difficult to recognize you with all the noise that's out there. And if you don't have that brand recognition, it's a lot harder to build that sort of brand trust. So it's so core to everything that you're going to be creating on this platform.
Yes, I will say I do have my brand kit set up. I've had it set up for a while because of your course. And I also have multiple brands. So I've got the Moxie Bright brand. I've got the Renee Dallow brand. I've got Conference Confident with Amber in there. Mm-hmm. We have a slightly different, no one probably has ever noticed this at all, but the brand colors for the podcast are slightly skewed from the Renee, like just a little different on purpose. And we have all of that in there. So the brand kit really saves a lot of time. And I'll also say, like, if I'm doing partnerships with a brand and I'm trying to create my own graphics or like a summit or anything, like for a time, I add their stuff into that brand kit so I can find it more easily. So it's very workable. Like you can, get things in, take things out. I really love the brand kit.
Well, and you can also have multiple brand kits. You can actually have up to 100 brand kits. This is going to be particularly effective for somebody who's maybe working with a lot of clients and does have to manage a lot of brands, because before you had that option, once upon a time, it was only available on what was then their enterprise account, which was the kind of full meal deal meant for large organizations. Yeah. And folks were having to kind of hack it and put multiple different color palettes, and it was really awkward. But now you can have up to 100. So if you are managing different clients, or if you have different projects or businesses that do have different brand assets associated with them, you can jump back and forth really easily between them, always ensuring that you're using exactly the right color codes, exactly the right font. And, it's one of those little efficiencies. You're not having to track down, oh, wait, is this the right hex color value for that particular shade of particular shade of green. And these, while it seems like these really tiny little bits of time, and it is, there's this cumulative effect, not only in terms of the amount of time that's taking you, but also if you're having to jump between things, you're going to lose the focus. And we all know how hard it is to get into flow when you're working on something. I don't want you to have to pull yourself out of flow to go track down, that slightly different version of a logo that you were looking for.
I 100% agree. Okay, this is when I start challenging myself. This next mistake, I want to say we're all doing this, maybe it's not just me, not getting organized.
You're all doing it. And so you're in good company. I hope that makes you feel better. Okay. I would actually say that those who are the most power users of Canva, and a lot of wedding professionals and creative professionals definitely fall into that category. You're creating so much content, whether it's social media, whether it is, onboarding guides, or, my brain's frozen because you can create everything.
Everything. I mean, we do our proposals on Canva. Exactly. I'm on Canva every single day. doing
it's always open.
Podcast or proposal or presentation. I'm in there constantly.
And because it is such a regular part of your daily workflow, you are creating it, you're creating so much content, and then you have to go back and find things later. And because you're such a power user, it's so easy for the designs to stack up on top of each other and for that uploads folder and the images to get out of control.
And then you tell you about my uploads folder. I'm so embarrassed.
And then you re-upload the same set of photos over and over because it will take you less time to do that than to track them down and upload them again. And this is why I think, it's easy to fall into these behaviors or these habits rather. But whether you are brand new to the platform or fairly new to using it and you want to set up a system moving forward, or you've been using it for a long time, you just want to wrangle it to some degree, it really is never too late. And I don't want folks to have Canva shame because I guarantee you, regardless of the advanced level of experience you might have using this platform, this is the one challenge that I see across the board, more so with those who are really comfortable using it.
One of the things that I did a couple of weeks ago, and you might laugh, this might not be the most effective way to do it. So as I say this, listeners, don't go off and run. Don't do what I did maybe. But because I do my design boards for my wedding planning clients in Canva as well, a lot of times I am uploading screenshots of things they've sent me in a text. They've left it on Aisle Planner. And so everything on the uploads folder is called screenshot with the date. So
that's helpful.
The worst. So either I go in and now a couple of weeks ago, I clean them out, anything that was like from an old design. So I'm not going to reuse those inspo photos most likely. But then I went in and I started renaming things in a way that I thought would work for my brain. We'll see. But just the act of clearing out old design photos was actually just so freeing for my brain, because there are some things that need to stay in there. There's definitely like the 7th time I've uploaded that same photo of wildflowers does not need to be there. But the renaming them, I think, will help me in the future. Is that what you would advise maybe?
That's one of the things, absolutely, because the search field, listen, I'm a big advocate for creating a folder system, and you should be doing that for your images as well. I'm a huge proponent for don't use the uploads folder unless it's for highly temporary purposes, something you're getting in, you're using it and getting it out. So we can talk about that a little bit more. But the renaming can be really effective because not only when you're scanning and you're seeing the names of the files and it's going to help you more quickly identify what's what, but because Canva's got that search bar at the top of the page, even if you have an effective folder system, sometimes that search bar can be the fastest way to find something that you might not be quite sure where you put it. And unless you have named your images and your designs in a way that are keyword rich, that are descriptive, that you're going to be able to recall and search on and pull up at a later date. If it's called screenshot, XYZ, it's going to be really hard to, you're just going to be pulling up so many results, and then you're going to have to go through and work your way through them anyways. So effective naming is definitely important. You do want to create those custom folders. It used to be that on a free plan, you could only have 2 custom folders. They did away with that limitation a long time ago. So regardless of whether you're on a free plan or a pro plan, you can have unlimited folders 10 levels deep. So there is no excuse to not create yourself a filing system. But I'm a huge proponent for not only creating that filing system for your designs, but your images can go into those folders as well. Because you can't put any sort of organizational structure onto that uploads folder. It just becomes this bottomless pit of despair very, very quickly. It's like the junk drawer of your Canva account. Everything's going in there, and you really can't find it again later unless you really recently used it.
Right. And now I feel sort of foolish because I'm like, I didn't even know I could make folders of my I guess I knew
it's not intuitive. It's not intuitive. No. Unless you know that, I don't think you think to go. You just kind of naturally think, oh, this is for designs. But no, you can organize your images and your videos into custom folders as well. The only thing you can't do yet is audio.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to make this my homework for next weekend, because I know that our completed designs are in folders, but I didn't know that I could organize the uploads. And so that is that's a real game changer. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Inbox 0 if you can to the images. It takes time, but it feels amazing. And then it's just really important to get into a habit of when you are uploading another set of brand photos or client photos or whatever it is, open that folder directly and then drag them directly into that folder rather than into the uploads folder and then having to move them over, because we just want to save a step there. And honestly, I still use the uploads folder, but it'll be for something that's highly temporary where I'm uploading it, I'm using it, and it's gone immediately. I don't need it again. I would say if you think you might use an image at a later date, archive it, create an archive folder, have an archived images section broken down by category. So it's there if you need it later. If you delete an image, it's not going to remove it out of your design, but you're not going to be able to re-access it later. Okay. So you want to make sure if it is something you're going to be, I mean, I encourage cleaning things up, but I don't want to go overboard, because if you do need it later, you want to make sure that you can get it
on your images, because you're going to need them. This is an interesting one that I have to say, when I read it, I was like, I never do this, but I imagine people do. Starting from scratch every time you create a design. That is a mistake people are making.
So you can think of this in a couple of different ways. Number one, folks are not taking advantage of the templates that are out there. And I mean, yes, there's third-party template websites that are great, but Canva's own template library definitely has broadened dramatically. There's a lot more to choose from. There's still some categories that are lacking. I would say, you know, lead magnets and ebooks and things of that nature. But there's a lot more to choose from. So I don't want to see you starting from scratch unless you have to when it comes to the designing part of it. But also just from a workflow perspective, like if you are creating a presentation, what I like to do is I have a couple of, you know, standard presentations that I do, but it's going to vary a little bit in terms of the slides depending on who I'm speaking to. You know, their level of expertise using Canva, the position they're at in their business, etc. So I have a master presentation deck for each one, which will have every version of those slides that I need. And I save that as a brand template so that whenever I need a new presentation, I make a copy of that brand template, and then I just go into grid mode and I'll select all the pages I don't need, delete them, and now I've got the clean presentation. I am not having to copy something, copy more slides over, make changes. I've got this kind of master version of it that I can start with, eliminate what I don't need, and then that's just going to be a huge time saver.
Yeah, that's major. That's super major. I think my most common Canva action is make a copy. Proposals, make a copy, change a couple of things. I'm always about make a copy in any platform really, but especially Canva. And I think saving things as templates is also an interesting thing. How do you do that for those listening? Is it pretty simple?
It's simple. This is going to be a pro feature as well, though, because it's a brand template. It's part of that brand kit, brand hub kind of area. What you want to do is when you've opened it as a design, if you click on the share button where you would normally go to download it, you are going to see an option. If it doesn't come up right away, you can go to the more section in terms of how to share or save the file. And one of the options will be brand template. And the only difference is kind of how you interact with it. Instead of opening it directly and making changes directly to it, it's going to prompt you to make a copy every time so that you never overwrite that original. So I would say for anything that you are creating on a regular basis, where it's got the bones are the same each time, maybe, you know, a client onboarding guide, a proposal, these things that you are going to be needing to make a copy of on a regular basis. You might even do this for some of your, you know, if you have a carousel layout that you like to use on a regular basis. Wherever you're kind of needing to make copies on an ongoing basis and you don't want to accidentally overwrite the original, this is a really good habit to get into.
Yeah, I love that. Speaking of templates, so I think most everyone knows that, like you said, Canva has a really robust suite of templates. I'm also a member of something called the Template Tribe.
Yes.
Which is like a separate.
Sal Francis.
I'll link to in the show notes because it's a really great resource for those things that you said were a little bit lacking, like the worksheets, the workbooks, the lead checklists, lead magnets. Yeah. I'm always over there sort of piecemealing. I call it Frankensteining, like different pages together to make it work. But for when someone's choosing a template, right? They said this is a mistake that people make, you say, is that they're choosing templates that are not in line with their branding, or they're choosing so many templates that it feels all over the place. So speak to that for a sec.
It can feel really jumbled. I think you have to always keep your brand aesthetic in mind. If you have a really light and airy kind of brand with, very kind of delicate light colors, even if there's a template that you really love, if it's a very bold, dark, broody kind of look and feel, yes, you can customize it. But what tends to happen is you may have components in there that just don't jive with your brand aesthetic, or by the time you change it enough to match your brand, it'll lose kind of the look and feel that you were attracted to in the first place. And then that's very disappointing. And you end up tossing a lot of time down the toilet because now you've got something you really can't use and you've just wasted an hour trying to customize it. So I think always choosing your templates through that lens of, does this already have the same sort of general aesthetic and look and feel such that when I customize it, it's not going to lose that impact? I think that's really important. And you can really use the filter options that are available in the Canva template library. So when you search on a term and it comes back with 30 gazillion results, there is an option to filter further, and you can choose to filter by style. So you could choose maybe minimal, or you could choose feminine, or you could choose whatever is going to work with your kind of general look and feel of your branding. It's not perfect. You're still going to get results that somehow have filtered that you're like, that does not match what I was looking for. But it's going to at least get rid of some of the clutter and make the number of results feel a little more manageable. You're never going to be able to go through all of the search results. There's so many of them now, which is great, but it can be very overwhelming. That's the rabbit hole. I would suggest finding a designer on Canva that you really like the look and feel of what they create, and then go look at what else they create, because chances are you're going to be able to find something that feels consistent, and then create yourself a suite of your own templates once they're customized, and then stick with those.
I didn't realize you could search by creator on Canva.
You can't search by, I think you might be able to search, but I've never been able to get it to work effectively. But when you do find a template that you like, look for the creator's name. And when you click on that, then you're going to be able to see everything that they've created. And you can choose to follow those creators so that you can go back and easily find them later.
Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna do that. What's interesting about creating graphics for a business, right? Because so for this podcast, when we started 4 years ago, we had this really I was really leaning in. I like color, right? So I was leaning into the brand colors, which were new at the time, which blue and red, and I was really into it. And then 2 years went by. Well, maybe not whole 2 years, but I was like, I'm tired of this now. Yeah. So I literally went into Canva and was like, well, what's available? And I ended up, like you said, customizing a template that was available. It's actually all the main graphic that we still use now. But again, just the other day, my brain was like, maybe we should switch it up again, but I think giving it the longevity and then switching up, for my mind, is fine. It's switching up all the time.
Yeah.
I think is the thing that people are like, wait, who is this now?
Well, and I would also suggest that if it's feeling too much same, maybe you need to diversify your template suite a little bit and have a few more options to choose from. They're still going to be consistent in terms of the fonts and the colors and the brand itself, the visual brand kit, but maybe it's just changed up a little bit and there's a little more visual variety to choose from. So if it is feeling a little too much, it's the same thing every single week. Yeah. You can kick it up a little bit, but the point is to make sure that it's still always going to be recognizable as your particular brand.
Yeah, agreed. And it's also really fun, I think, just to go in and play, even if you don't use, that, but if you're like, this isn't the final outcome, but okay, this is just kind of play around with what if, right? I always feel like that's a little bit of figuring out your brand personality by sort of figuring out what it is and what it isn't. Yes. Which is just as powerful as knowing exactly what it is from the beginning. So if anyone's out there I don't know, play around. Yep. Play around.
And it takes time. And inevitably, once you find what you think it is, you need to refresh it. I've had mine for some years now, and I'm not quite ready to change it up, but I'm feeling the lure of pretty other pretty color palettes and wanting to have something a little more flexible for me to work with. So I think that might be around the corner, but you don't want to be chasing down those rabbit holes either, because there's too many other more important things to do. And we are always noticing it more than anybody else is in our audience.
Oh yeah, of course. And I don't think anyone thinks twice about any graphics that they see, unless they're doing too much, which is your next mistake, which is feeling that they need to use every feature available to them on Canva. So when I read that, I went to like, those sort of like the visual clutter of sometimes an image where it's like there's a moving piece and something has an impact, and then there's an arrow and a blinking thing, and it's just too much. That's how I took it, but I'm sure there's very many avenues this could go down.
So there's a couple of different ways you could look at this. Certainly falling into the trap of what else can I animate? I mean, you want to do it if it's going to add impact. If it's just going to become some jumping, dancing, mess on your Instagram, then, unless it's adding value, I would say do it with intention. But I think there's also a tendency to feel like if you aren't using every possible app and feature and photo editing technique and all these things that, back to what we were saying at the beginning, Canva is constantly iterating, and there's all these features, and certainly their Magic Studio is a big focal point, and a lot of people are like, what else can I do with AI? But sometimes you don't need to AI everything. Sometimes you just need something that is attractive and effective and doesn't forget the fundamentals of design, like contrast and white space and hierarchy and all these basic principles that help design make information easier to consume. And, you don't necessarily need to use Magic Edit in order to do that. But so I really want to encourage folks to focus on the fundamentals. Make sure that is it supporting your business? Then don't worry about using every bell and whistle that's available to you. I have not experienced the majority, 95% of the apps that are available in their app library, because it's not adding anything of value in terms of how I use Canva to support my business. So don't feel like you need to use everything or you're not getting the value of your membership. Yeah. If your subscription is allowing you to create the content that you need to support your marketing and your client materials, then job done. Just focus on the foundational bits, and you can play with it a little bit here and there, but don't let it bog you down.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also do want to say, though, that as someone who's been with Canva a long time, if anyone listening also is in that boat, go into the apps and just see what's there. You might be shocked, right? Like, I'll tell you, this is a little funny, like how Canva saved the day story. So last summer, I had a wedding that they didn't want to work with a professional stationer. It just wasn't in their values, right? They were just like, we don't really care. So they attempted to order their individual place cards from an online source. And what ended up happening, through no fault of my clients, is that the online source basically said, these aren't going to get to you in time. So we're not even going to make them. We're going to refund you. And they ordered them in time. So it was like definitely like a problem with the distributor. It wasn't minted for anyone listening. So that left us with like 2 weeks to go, no place cards. And I was like, okay, send me the list. Like, I'm your planner. This isn't necessarily what I do, but like, what's the option here? You guys are busy. I'll figure it out. Canva has a bulk create feature that I didn't know existed. And I was able to make 150 place cards in like 7 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. And then I sent it to the printer to get printed. And I was the hero. And I literally sat here in shock once it all worked, that I was like, so that's it? Like, yeah, that's it. And 7 minutes is only because it took me probably 4.5 minutes to pick the right exact template that was perfect. I got into that little weeds of like, well, this and this, what about this? But like, I didn't know that was something. And it could have been there for years, but I just never needed it. So I didn't know.
It wasn't there for years. So
okay, good.
You can don't worry, you didn't miss out on a whole lot of opportunity there. But there are these features definitely that can be major time savers, or they were in particular scenarios, they can just be exactly what you need. I'd say also if you have some time to kill and you want to get a little more familiar with it, go take a look through what's in the elements, Canva's elements, because yes, there's photos and videos and audio and icons and illustrations and things like that. There's some really cool chart features in there as well. If you were ever wanting to create some sort of, an infographic or an interactive sort of chart. There's these neat features in there. What I would caution against is going into the actual apps library that they have, because these are a lot of apps that were created by third parties. And to be honest, a lot of them, I don't think they're adding anything of value. But there are definitely core features that I think work in these really specific situations that can be incredibly time saving. And then also spend a little bit of time, if you do want to get more comfortable with what's possible, look at Magic Studio, because that can save you a lot of time. The background remover alone is going to be a massive, huge time saver. And
my life.
Especially, you can get creative with that and finding ways to use it that you hadn't even thought of. Magic, there's a Magic Grab one that allows you to remove text from an image, which can be really effective if you wanted to remove a brand name from something for some reason. And then I like Magic Expand. If you have a photo and you're trying to create a social graphic, and maybe the photo's very square in orientation, and you want to make it fit better for an Instagram story, and it's not quite tall enough, and if you crop it, it looks weird. Magic Expand can give you some options to try to fill in the top and bottom. Sometimes the results are a little bizarre. I have seen some that are the stuff of nightmares, but sometimes they can be really effective. And as things progress and the I don't know what powers it, but whatever's powering it, as it gets better, you're going to see better and better results. But none of that is going to matter if you don't have a brand kit set up and you can't find any of your designs. So focus on the fundamental parts, and then you're going to feel, a little more flexibility to go and play.
Yeah. And just speaking about Canva Pro, I believe I've always paid for Canva. Like, I think I was introduced to it, like many people are, free, and then immediately was like, okay, this is valuable. For me, Canva's just the cost of doing business. As I'm sitting here, I have no idea how much it costs a year, because it doesn't matter, because I'm going to pay it because it's that valuable.
It is probably one of the least expensive subscriptions that you're going to pay. I'm not sure what it is in US dollars. I think Canadian is about $17 a month, and it's less per month if you go annually. We're talking really minimal.
Really?
That said, I mean, the free subscription of software solutions out there, I would say their free plan is one of the most robust software options that I've seen in terms of what they actually include for free. But you are going to find those core things like the brand kit, like the ability to resize one design into another design. And some of these features you're only going to find on the Pro plan, and it's been set up that way on purpose. But it is really highly inexpensive.
It really is. I mean, considering everything that I do for it over multiple brands, it's kind of essential at this point. I mean, it's like, it is a core, anytime someone on Facebook's like, what are the things you use to run your business? I'm like, well, email, Canva, like, boom, it's right up top there, because if it all were to go away, we'd all just fall apart around here, at least.
We'd suddenly not be posting on Instagram very much.
All of my presentations would just look like white backgrounds and black font. Like, do you like it? And
we'd be investing a lot more money to have these things created. And I do want to make it clear, I don't think Canva replaces a talented graphic designer. I think that there's a real importance of investing in your visual brand, in having, those core brand components created by somebody who understands brand voice and brand values and your audience, and translating those important components into a visual medium. Yeah. But you also don't want to be in a position where you're having to rely on a professional designer to quickly, put out the next episode artwork for your podcast, because it's just not financially attainable for the typical small business owner.
And I'll also say, like, I agree with you 100%. You need that foundational work of being done by a professional, but also the more you use Canva, the more your own design skill will improve. Especially if you're using the templates, right? Especially if you're going in to grab like an Instagram post that's already templated for you and be like, oh, I understand why these components are like this. And over time, I mean, listen, are you going to become a professional? No, but your general just design sense will improve. And it's always going to have your flavor to it. It's always funny with me and Amber with Conference Confident. Our taste about designs is completely different. Mm-hmm. So if she's designing the Canva, I can always tell. And then if I'm doing it, like she's like, no, I have notes. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, I mean, it's just one of those things when you're running a business with someone, but it is funny. I can always tell, and maybe other people can too, who's designing what for each brand. And that's just part of the magic of it, I think. It's like getting our own personality in through the design as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So as a fellow online entrepreneur, Brenda, we always talk here about self-care. It's my soapbox of the millennium at this point, of like decades. So I want to ask you, do you have a morning routine? And if so, what is it?
I don't have well, I mean, I guess I do to some extent, which usually consists of me hitting snooze as many times as I possibly can before I really have to get up and get my kid ready for school. Nice. And then once, their lunch is packed and they've had breakfast and they're out the door, then I have made a real effort to spend an hour just having my tea and just listening to a podcast and just having some downtime. I spent far, far too many years leaping into action the moment my eyes opened, and it just set my day off with this adrenaline, and it set a tone for the day that was not sustainable, and it was not healthy. It was not good for my mental health. And now I, don't feel any shame about not cracking open my email often until 9:30 or 10 o'clock because I need that downtime to just consume other things, to just be at peace, get myself ready for the day, and then I will start. And then, along the same lines, allowing myself to feel productive without stuffing every moment of the day chock a block full of stuff. Yep. It's been very hard reconditioning myself to not fall into this hustle mindset that I've had for so many years, because I've been a business owner for 24 years and I've spent far too many of those years killing myself. And it's only been in the past year really that as I'm now in my mid-40s that I don't want to maintain that kind of level anymore. I'd like to actually chill out and enjoy myself a little bit more.
Well, if I don't feel that immediately. I also love that you're not a 5 a.m. entrepreneur.
Oh, God, no.
I'm like a 10 a.m. I get up at like 7 or 8 o'clock, but like, that there was advice for many years as you were coming up, I'm sure. And as I was coming up, that was like, gotta get up at 5. You gotta get up at 5. You gotta write your book at 5 a.m. I'm not going to do anything at 5 a.m.
Nope.
I'm not a nice person at 5 a.m. I don't want to do it.
No. Everybody's going to have their time of day that they feel most productive, that they feel most creative. And for some of us, we may not get that window every day, and not beating myself up about that anymore has been a monumental shift. It has not come easily. I'm still working on it. Yeah. But I feel now often when I finish the day, like I did enough. I moved, I got the key things done, and nobody else is gauging this against a list. It's all in my own head.
That's right. That's right. So our topic this month in my membership, so I have a membership called Better with Renee Dallow. It's like a self-development membership for entrepreneurs. It's about habits and all the things we talk about. And our topic for March is journaling. So my final question to you, Brenda, is do you journal?
I don't. I never have. And I don't know why. I am somebody who I do like to get ideas down, and I'm more of a doodler and a brain dumper, and piles of notes that I then will organize into some sort of structure. But I don't know, and it is something that I've thought about repeatedly, but I can't seem to bring myself to do. So I'm not sure if I should.
I'm gonna tell you a secret. You're journaling.
Oh, all right.
like brain dumping lists. All that's actually
I love a list.
It's a form of journaling. That's a form of journaling. Like, listen, I think we have this idea of like journaling is like, dear diary, today in my business, I felt sad. And that's not what it is. It's pen to paper. I call it just paper thinking, right? Whatever that needs to be. Some days it's a list. Some days it's, I'm so mad at so-and-so, right? Some days it's, why am I still thinking about this thing that happened in year one of my business? Some days it's a doodle. It can be whatever, but I think the pen to paper part of it, like the neuroscience,
that is critical. That is absolutely critical. And I have found that sometimes if I just leave, if I really am feeling a little bit stuck, or if things are whirling up here in my head and I can't seem to get any focus, just grabbing a notebook, some pens, some colored pens, getting out of my regular environment, coffee shop, go to a, cafe, whatever, and sit down and just start to, get it all out. What are all the things? No judgment, no linear kind of approach. Yes. What are all the things that are living up here that need to get out so I can do something with them? Because I can't do anything if they're just dancing around in my head.
Give yourself credit, girl, because you're already journaling.
There you go. I learned something new.
You did it. Brenda, where can everyone find you on the internet, please?
Best place is my website, brendacadman.com. That's where all my resources and things live.
Are you on I know you're on Instagram, but are you on the TikTok?
I am not on the TikTok, and I don't know if I will ever be on the TikTok. That remains to be seen.
Last month we were doing visibility as the prompt, and I've decided that my TikTok is a lawless place where I talk about whatever I want. And so what that has manifested in is a lot of skincare. So if you ever want to talk about skincare, you can come on TikTok and talk about that with me.
There you go.
And then tell us a little bit about the courses that you have, the resources you have available if someone wants to learn more about Canva.
So I am probably one of the few course creators out there that does not launch ever anymore. Listen, I'm a big believer that if you are struggling with something related to Canva, you need to solve that problem now. So all of my Canva courses they're evergreen, they're available on demand. They are small courses. They are, $67 to $97 kinds of things. And if you want to learn, if you're beginner and you want to learn the fundamentals of it, there's an option for you. If you want to get organized, there's a course about that. And then if you want to learn how to use Canva to create specific kinds of materials for your business, there's a course for that as well.
Oh, I love it. We're going to link to all of that in the show notes. So if you're driving, you don't have to pull over or remember, because you're not going to remember anything. Hello. Brenda, thank you so much for being here. This is so deeply helpful. And I don't know, I just feel like we can't talk about Canva enough, just because it's like the unsung hero of our business. So thank you for bringing it to light.
Oh, my pleasure. I would talk about it all day long if you let me.
Up next, a full day. No,
that's right.
A full day workshop on Canva. No.
We'll do that over wine in May at Canva Create.
Yes, when you come to LA. Yes. We'll put that, when we do it, we'll put it on the Insta story so you can see that it happened for real. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to listen to us and be here with us today. And we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Bye for now.